Thank you so much for being a part of our study. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 4, and we're looking at verse 9. By the way, Deuteronomy 4 is Moses' sermon about what he's getting ready to teach him, and kind of an overview of what he wants us to know. And one of the things he's going to say over and over again is to teach. So he says, verse 9, take care and watch yourselves closely, so as to neither forget the things that your eyes have seen, nor let them slip from your mind all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your children's children. How you once stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, that's Mount Sinai, when the Lord said to me, assemble the people for me, and I'll let them hear my words, so that they may learn to fear me as long as they live on the earth, and may teach their children. Let's talk about the fear of the Lord, because the fear of the Lord is one of the reasons why God has interacted with his people. So why don't you give us some thoughts about the fear of the Lord, Rudy?
Well, I think that's really one of the problems we have connecting Jesus with the God of the Old Testament. And because we don't think that they have a similar spirit.
Right.
Because the spirit of the Old Testament seems to be very harsh. But when we are able to connect it with Jesus, that is the definition of the fear of the Lord. The fear of being separated from him throughout eternity, or being separated from the earth yourself, is the beginning of understanding. It is. I'm not saying this. I believe that God is saying this over and over and over again, that you cannot understand what I have for you if you don't understand the consequences of you not doing it.
Okay.
That's the fear of the Lord.
Right.
And obedience to the law is somewhere in the same realm. And that's a Pharisaic kind of spirit. And that spirit is that I keep the law, therefore I'm good.
Right.
I see a lot of Christians walking around thinking this way today. But the keeping of the commandments is a touchstone to understanding the radiance that surrounds the words.
Right.
And ultimately, that is only unlocked by the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit came on the anniversary of giving the Ten Commandments. What Bob was saying about Moses, he's teaching something that he's going to tell you about and he's going to remind you about in the 6th chapter, is exactly in the pattern of how God placed his witness in the earth. He gave the Ten Commandments, the constitution of the kingdom, and then at Pentecost gave us something, his Spirit, to be able to do them in the way that he wanted us to.
You got it. So you talk about part of the fear of the Lord is the concern about being separated. We both have a friend who's now been in heaven for about 5 years, Josh Monk. And Josh lived in this close relationship with the Lord. Yeah. And there were times when he felt distant from God. He would say, God, what's happened? What is it about my life that you don't like? And he would try to get that. So it wasn't that he was cringing, afraid of God, but rather he was concerned about being apart from him. And he didn't want, once he had tasted that nearness with God, he didn't ever want to be away from that nearness.
You positively believe that there's something the matter with you when you've lost the cocoon of the Holy Spirit.
Right. And one of the fears I have is a word which we find in the Old Testament, which is hardness. And that would be that I could get to a place where I'm no longer worried about being separated. That I was so fixed in my own self-will and pride and sin that my heart was hard and I no longer had any awe or fear or concern about being separated from God. That's a concern. Let's skip to another phrase in here. He said, remember remember what I've done for you.
Well, when I think about remember, it draws me back to the Last Supper. When Jesus says, do this in commemoration of me.
Right.
Co-memory.
Right.
And from that, it took decades for me to quite understand, because being raised Jewish, I was always wondering how much of the law do I have to keep, or do I have to keep any of it anymore? I still keep biblically kosher. I think about the holidays. I don't keep them in exactly the same ways that I used to.
Right.
But what I learned from this, and it has to do with the fear of the Lord as the beginning of understanding, is that the work of the Holy Spirit helps us understand that commemoration is higher than obedience.
Yeah. So, Rudy, you study every day.
Every day.
And I study every day primarily to do these blog articles. Part of that is to remind me, I'm retired, you're not, you're still working like a dog, but I'm retired, and it helps me remember the things that God has done for me.
One of the reasons I do, and this almost brings me to tears, is I'm so corrupt that if I don't get a taste of heaven every day, there's no telling what I would actually be.
Right.
And even with it, I suck.
Yeah.
I almost every night go home and just, Father, why did you allow this to happen?
Right. Yeah. Well, I could raise my hand in guilt on that point also. One other really quick thing has to do with teaching. They were to remember, but they were to teach. And, you know, if we don't teach our children, the gospel will be lost. When I started preaching in 1968, an average of 34% of America was active in church. In 2021, now that number is in half. It's now 17%. And there's some of our denominational, we're Baptists, some of our denominational leaders are predicting that to even go further down, because we currently have what one leader is calling a crisis of credibility. And so it's important that we teach, and it's also important that we live. It's so important.
It is, and really that is, you know, this is a statistic. America is the largest Christian nation in the world.
Right.
And the third largest non-Christian nation.
Correct.
How could this be?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
exactly what those figures, percentages speak to.
They do. Thanks so much for being a part. Rudy, thank you. We could talk all day on this topic, but we'll come back tomorrow and try some more. God bless you.